Can you talk a little bit more about, how was the intervention? How was the study designed? Maybe if you have like any interesting thoughts on how was to run the actual study.
Yeah, sure. So in terms of study design, it was a randomized crossover trial, and we had 30 adults aged between 19 and 39. So randomized crossover trial is where everyone does both arms of the study. So we had two arms. One was the prolonged sitting intervention, and the other was the activity breaks intervention. So like I said, we did our intervention in the evening. So participants came to the lab at the University of Otago here at around 5:30 p.m. and they were randomized as to whether they did the sitting first or the activity breaks first. And so if they were doing the sit, they would do exactly that, sit for 4 hours in a lazy boy chair, and they could watch a streaming service of their choice for that time. And then the other intervention, the activity breaks. So it was exactly the same. They sat in the same chair for the same duration, so 4 hours, except they got up every half an hour to do 3 minutes of resistance exercise activity breaks. And those were displayed on a big screen. And there was a little 3-minute video that they got to follow along with. So they'd simply stand up, watch the video, and just do the activity breaks. And we gave them standardized meals in both interventions. So at 0, they had dinner, and then at 2 hours, they had a dessert, and those were standardized over the 2 sessions. And we monitored their blood glucose and insulin levels via blood samples. So they had a cannula inserted into their arm, and we took 9 samples throughout the session, and that we used to look at blood glucose and insulin response to the meals. In terms of like the experience of running the intervention, for me, it was a really fun experience. Not often do you get to do a study where participants come and sit in the lab and, watch a streaming service, which is a real typical behavior. So in terms of like actually running the study, it was great and the participants were great. So yeah.
Do you mind telling us what did you find?
So we found that the regular activity breaks decreased the postprandial insulin and glucose response by about 31 and 26% respectively in this group of healthy adults. And when we looked at it by different BMI, so we looked at the difference for those in the healthy, weight, overweight, and obese BMI groups, we found that there were reductions in postprandial glucose and insulin for all those groups. So it really just highlighted that everyone can benefit from reducing the time they spend sitting in the evening.
Now I wanted to ask, you got the results and you see that, it's good. It's good to have these breaks. Did you ever do some experiments to try aerobic exercise, or why did you choose resistance training?
Yeah. So we chose resistance exercises because we felt that in the evening, people probably aren't going to want to do, aerobic exercise that could make them very sweaty right before bed. And also, there is a bit of a discussion around the impacts of doing cardiovascular exercise before bed on sleep. So when you're really elevating your heart rate and your body temperature, maybe that can impact sleep. So that's kind of one reason why we chose to go with resistance exercises. The other was we wanted to do something that everybody can do. So our exercises didn't require equipment. They really didn't require much space. Like you could simply just stand up. And so, we wanted something that was simple that everyone can do. That's going to have a benefit, using those big muscle groups, but that isn't going to, cause you to get really hot and sweaty in the evening before you went to bed.
If you could, tell people, after my research, I recommend that you do this, what would you say?
Yes, I would say I would recommend that you just break up the amount of time you spend sitting in the evening as much as possible. And it can be as simple as standing up and sitting down a couple of times. You don't need to go out there and run a marathon. Sit less, move more if you can, and move more often.
Have you kind of thought about how people could implement these exercises, like I guess any behavioral interventions or things like that. I'm just wondering, and I know that there are other behavioral interventions, like maybe apps, or sending text messages, prompts, etc. Like, have you looked into any other behavioral interventions?
Yeah. So, I mean, we did interview our participants afterwards, and again, that's some data that's going to come out at some point. But we definitely got the sense that people would find some sort of alert beneficial, whether that be from an app or built into the streaming service. I think that would really help people kind of remember to do the breaks and, have it there and showing you and telling you what to do. But I guess what people can do now is just, if you're watching standard TV, the advertisements could serve as a trigger for you to get up. So every time an ad comes on, you get up, walk around the kitchen or decide to do 10 or 20 squats up and down from your chair. But if you're watching a streaming service, instead of clicking watch next episode, maybe watch the credits, and while the credits run, you use that time to do some squats or, some calf raises. But like you say, any behavioral interventions is really difficult. So yeah, that's kind of where we're moving towards.
No, I think that's actually great ideas. I mean, personally, I watch a lot of TV in the evenings, and I think this is extremely helpful. Yeah, clicking next episode, you just do some squats.
Yeah. Unless it's really gripping and then you just want to click next. It's all about, that trigger to remind you to do something, isn't it?
Yeah, and so I was wondering if you have any last thoughts that you would like to share.
The best and most exciting finding was that there was a benefit for everyone. So that, the people are in the healthy weight group all the way up to the people in the obese BMI group, it doesn't matter. They all experienced a benefit of reducing their sitting time. And yeah, I think that was an exciting finding because it means it's relatable to everyone. That's probably the best finding for me, in that, it means there seems to be people are excited about this research. Where, when it came out, we did, news interviews, we're on the radio, and I think that's really exciting because it means people are interested in what we have to say, and hopefully that means this research will go somewhere and we can actually produce outcomes, in the real world.